Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to the channel and some more Birthright coverage here. So we're moving on in our Northern Marches series here and looking at Cariele, which is a very tiny domain, but a fun one to adventure in and certainly a challenge to run as a domain ruler. So alignment is actually neutral evil. So as it says here, the guilds of the north basically run the kingdom and they run it to make a profit, no matter who they have to step on to get it. And so the ruler, at least nominally here, the initial one is kind of a figurehead, so makes for some interesting role playing certainly and attempts at ruling as you kind of get started in the campaign. So again, three provinces, although two of them pretty well settled: Melivienne and Riverford. Mountain's Edge is a little bit more sparsely populated. Okay amount of magic in the kingdom here. The law, as we'll see, is somewhat divided here, and really the real power behind the sort of figurehead ruler has at least half of it. Temples, largely dominated by one. Guild situation is also 100% locked up, and that is via the person who also is splitting the law, and again, kind of has their hands behind the scene there. And then the sources are split as well. So let's jump in. So Antir Gladinil is a level 5 fighter, small bloodline, but neutral evil. Has recently ascended to the throne of the County of Cariele. Locals say his father never adjusted the law enough to suit the guild's interests, or interceded for these guilds when other kingdoms closed their borders to them. Antir has learned his lesson. He allows the guilds plenty of leeway and signs whatever the guild masters put in front of him. This weak-willed fop spends most of his kingdom's income building up his castle and his wardrobe. So certainly if you want to take over him as the actual ruler, definitely going to be hard to sort of turn that around based on the description you're given there. So, and really virtually impossible to shake off the influence of the guild without just drastically changing the nature of the domain. So, something to keep in mind there. Provinces, again, the kingdom's capital, Carolinian, though technically in Riverford, sits at the intersection of all three, so a pretty advantageous position there. Then the important NPCs, and really the main one here, the thief, and again we're probably going to butcher this name, but Melier Byrian, level 8 thief, pretty solid bloodline, also neutral evil, remains the true power behind the throne. And again, we'll review her domains later if you want to get in on the guild action here in the north. Though three guilds operate in Cariele, one for each province, each of them report to her. So she controls them all like a great spider handles its web. So think like Littlefinger from Game of Thrones almost, just as a rough comparison there. Again, very rough. She controls them all like a spider. All right, twitching a strand here and there to keep the web constantly moving. She's the most ruthless guild leader in Annuir, bar none. That's saying something considering Endir, for example. Perhaps that's why she sits at the top of her profession. Currently, she's trying to muscle out her competition in Dozone. Again, we reviewed them. But for the first time in her life, she actually faces some competition, basically. So from Gilder's Bannier Andian, Storm Holston, who we'll get to way later, but is a really interesting character as well. Adair Donaim and Galen Thuriad. There's not much need for magic in Cariele, the Kingdom of Commerce. The fact that most of the magic of the land has disappeared, although, again, there's a fair bit in Mountain's Edge. Let's be real there. With the forest, basically, so because of all the logging, right, has discouraged mages from moving there. So, but again, there is potential. Temples to Eric and Halen used to hold sway in this domain, but they've fallen out of favor to temples of Sarmier. The people have learned to stop putting their faith in ideals, instead preferring a god that exemplifies more physical pursuits. The Northern Reformed Church of Sarmier, run by the priestess Lara Neelums, level 8 priest, who's actually neutral evil, so factor that in, is the dominant faith of Cariele, and her and Byrian do partner together in some of the extended story, so hopefully we will get to that. With only a small hilly gap, and this is again the description of the territory here, in the stone crowns connecting the kingdom to the rest of Annuir, Cariele almost saved the northern lands from conquest. Only by sea or through this gap in the stone crowns could the Annuirians pass into the marches. So in this narrow pass, the entire second Annuirian army met its death as an elven ambush, and that could make for some fun adventuring to go back to that battle site. Rained sharp-tipped death upon the troops. Eventually, another detachment managed to reach the peaks overlooking the gorge, but not before, again, extra losses. Ever since, Annuirian forces have watched the gap with a hawk-like eye. The memory of the ambush lives in both human and elf memory. The humans call the mountain pass Melivien, or the Gates of Doom, whereas the elves call it Toriandor, and this is going to be rough, Quach Lemire. Again, kind of the Gaelic-like language there that the elves in the Sinning have. If anybody knows the actual pronunciation of that, that'd be amazing. But anyway, call it Fool's Passage. So again, makes for some rich adventuring in that area there. Then Cariele was once a gorgeous country with towering trees rising high above the land, now under the rule of Gladdenil and Berrien. The provinces have been stripped down and harvested of their resources. Roads cross the land and stumps of trees dot the landscape as far as the eye can see in Riverford, where fur used to provide the bulk of the domain's income. Now the timber trade thrives throughout the country. Members of the guilds have planted quick growth trees for future harvesting, which has begun to bring the animals back tentatively. The winds in Cariele blow hard and cold from the Tail Firth and the north, blasting the northern face of the Stone Crowns. Those who live here have grown hard and tough, fighting the winds and working with their axes in the forest all day. These locals don't seem to care for anyone but themselves and can't be bothered by strangers. In return, the Carolinians find they receive precious little interest from the rest of Annuir, which again can be a blessing as well. So it's just a fun domain. So very well developed, despite being in the north, yet still maintaining that hard sort of frontier edge. But again, is an important crossroads. And again, as a ruler, that can certainly be something that can be played up. You might indeed try to sort of gain a little bit more control and sort of levy again that position of controlling that pass and developing some fortifications or other things there. And there's actually a adventure that was published in, I can't remember if it was Dragon or Dungeon, which we'll get to eventually, which really features this really cool adventure, but features in that that area there, that gap, sort of a former ruined gate and wall and all that stuff. So, but really cool stuff there. So that's one area you do have, again, as the ruler, you're kind of stuck between a lot of different domains there. So you got the things going on with that little gap to the south. You kind of do want to keep trade open that way. You have some not so friendly neighbors with the elves to the east, goblins to the west, Dosone to the north, which again, there's kind of that underground guild war going on all around, thanks to, again, the sort of puppet master there, Byrian. So you as a ruler really would find it exceedingly difficult to sort of break from the mold here. But again, could possibly turn it around. Maybe you just one day want to throw off the yoke here of Barian. Maybe you're secretly plotting revenge, whatever it might be. But again, there's a lot of potential for different things there. So really worth exploring there. And army-wise, doesn't really mention anything here. You could probably, again, work out something with the DM to have sort of a small sort of defensive force, if nothing else. But overall, fun domain. Certainly fun to adventure in, and just a kind of like a nice gateway to all kinds of other possibilities. So hit us up in the comments, guys, with your stories on Cariele, and we will look forward to seeing those. Like and subscribe if you haven't already, and we'll see you in the next one. Take care.